Welcome to the Arlington Street Church podcast. Founded in 1729, Arlington Street continues today as a gathering place for progressive people of faith in the greater Boston area and beyond. We are located at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Streets, across from the Public Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to invite all of the children or those young at heart to come forward for our time for family ministry. Come on. All right, well, does anyone know what's happening on Tuesday? Voting? Yes. It's election day. And today in the service, we're going to be talking about that, not just as something we do here in America, but as something that is intrinsic to our Unitarian Universalist faith. In fact, it's written about in our fifth principle, which you can read right on the cover of our order of worship this morning. So today, since we're speaking on voting, I want to tell you a bit about one of my heroes. Does anybody know who that is? Wow, you're good. That is, in fact, Susan B. Anthony. She is one of our Unitarian heroes who is one of the greatest examples, I believe, of what it truly means to live through the democratic process so you can effect change. So a little bit about her. She was born in 1820, and at the young age of 17, can you believe she was 17 years old, she was very, very interested in fighting against slavery. So she joined the Anti-Slavery Society at the age of 17 and worked on that issue for many, many years. At the age of 30, she actually left her childhood faith of Quakerism and became a Unitarian in the Unitarian Church in Rochester. Well, in 1869, she joined forces with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who's also one of our Unitarian heroes. And together they worked for equal rights for women. Did you know that when she was alive, women could not vote? Women were not allowed to vote. And she thought that was incredibly unfair. So she and Elizabeth Cady Stanton formed the National American Women's Suffrage Association. And get this, in 1872, she decided she was going to break the law. She went to her hometown of Rochester and she voted. And she was arrested. This was a crime. Well, she refused. She put up a lot of protests. She refused to pay the fine, and eventually they got tired of it and they dismissed the charges. Well, she and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, they lobbied their congressman. And in 1878, that congressman actually introduced an amendment to the Constitution to allow women the right to vote. Do you think that passed? No, it didn't. It failed. But you know what? She didn't give up, and for the rest of her life, she went around the United States pushing for human rights, for women, for everyone. And she passed away in 1905. And when she died, women still did not have the right to vote. But her legacy and her example encouraged many other women and some men to take up the fight for civil rights for women. And in 1920, 15 years after she died, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution finally passed, and it gave women the right to vote. That amendment was commonly referred to as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. And that is one reason why she is one of our great Unitarian heroes. Thank you.
Do not stand idly by while your neighbor's blood is shed. This is a passage from Leviticus. I don't know if it's a good translation. I do know it's a good directive. Do not stand idly by. This is the call of our faith. It calls us to our humanity, to feel for others, and to act. Figuring out what to do is increasingly overwhelming. But I want to stress that do not stand idly by does not say fix everything. We just need to do something. One thing. The next one thing we can do. Today, we're here, upholding and uplifting one another. On Tuesday, we vote. Ken put a bumper sticker on our van that says, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. Obviously. And how much do we love that rush of righteous anger, the roaring in the ears, the energy? Alas, outrage is a bit like sugar. A steady diet of it does not nourish us. It does not motivate us. We're up and then we're down. It enervates us. It eviscerates us. We can afford to indulge perhaps one hot moment of outrage, but only if it propels us into action. And despair? Despair is a luxury we cannot afford. What's the alternative? Faith and great love. Do not stand idly by. Dodge City, Kansas is a majority Hispanic city of some 27,000 citizens. They have one polling station. And last month, officials moved that one polling station outside city limits and 1 mile from any bus stop. What can we do? Lyft stepped in to offer free rides to and from the polls. Do not stand idly by while your neighbor's blood is shed. A week ago on Saturday, 11 worshipers were killed at Tree of Life Temple in the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in America. Less than 1 week later, Celebrate Mercy and Empower organized a crowdfunding campaign called Muslims Unite for Pittsburgh Synagogue. By midweek, they had raised more than $200,000 to support the survivors. The donation page says, "We wish to respond to evil with good as our faith instructs us and send a powerful mission of compassion through action." Our faith, too, calls us to do something. Between now and Tuesday, we'll walk through our days with an eye and an ear out for the next best thing we can do. Maybe it's texting a voter in Texas, calling a congressperson, making sandwiches for Yes on 3 campaign staffers, giving someone a ride to the polls. Giving money is doing something. Maybe it's saying hello. Smiling at someone is doing something. Don't overthink it. Just do something. And on Wednesday morning, no matter which way these elections go, we need to get up and keep doing something. This is our faith. Do not stand idly by. Do something. Some of our new members were asking about our history as a faith tradition. There are a lot of great places to read about it, and there's a lot to say. For today, just one paragraph on universalism. Don't worry, it's not boring. Universalism is exactly what we need for such a time as this. It began as heresy. In the 18th century, Puritan Jonathan Edwards warned his parishioners of a distant, angry God who would doom humankind to a hell of eternal damnation. At the dawn of the 19th century, Reverend Hosea Ballou, the Universalist heretic, proclaimed a God that was neither wrathful nor judgmental. Once when Ballou was preaching here in Boston, a rock came through a window and landed nearby. He picked it up and proclaimed, "This argument is solid and weighty, but it is neither reasonable nor convincing." God is love, he said, the source of all goodness and mercy. Every one of us is precious, said the good Reverend, and by God's grace, every one of us is headed to heaven. And so Calvinism's gospel of human depravity was met with the gospel of universal salvation and the great heart of universalism. Our faith has continued to evolve. When the Unitarians and the Universalists joined forces in the early 1960s, it was a match made in heaven. The Universalists thought God was too good to damn them, and the Unitarians thought they were too good to be damned. All of it points to our first principle, a covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every being. I will give you that this is not an easy faith for these times. The seemingly endless inhumanity, the depravity of some humans is fathomless. But we are called to keep this faith, never give up, and to engage wholeheartedly on the side of love. Not to hate, but to love. And what does that look like? In a minute, I'm going to tell you a really good story. Stephanie Somerville graduated from college and has gone on to a successful career as a singer and musical theater performer living in New York City. But she spent her childhood dreaming of escaping Evansville, Indiana, where she was the only black kid she knew. She was thrilled to head off to a historically black college in Atlanta and to experience the culture of the African diaspora and change the world with her stunning achievements. But almost immediately it all unraveled. The president of the college embezzled from the scholarship funds. And then Stephanie was taking a course on a film set, but 3.5 weeks in, the producers and directors disappeared along with the course credit. Her scholarship was gone, and her always perfect GPA was ruined. She lost her housing and slept on the stockroom floor of a McDonald's, where she worked until she got her first paycheck. She bought a bus ticket, rode home to southern Indiana, and plunged into a deep depression. After a couple of weeks, she managed to get up and open a newspaper to look for a job. She saw an ad for people to sit with elderly shut-ins, feed them, and give them their medicine. And she thought, what better job for a person who's depressed than to have a job sitting, just sitting? She was hired. And of course, the newest person gets the hardest assignment. Her first client lived in a little house in an all-white neighborhood, and he was very, very sick. Stephanie knocks on the door. A white woman comes to the door and says, "Go away." Stephanie says, "Hi, ma'am, I'm from Health Skills. I'm here because you needed a sitter." The woman says, "Go away. I don't want you here." She goes to the phone, calls Health Skills, slams down the phone, and opens the door. Stephanie's client is dying of cirrhosis of the liver. Unconscious, he's on a respirator. Every 15 minutes, his airway needs to be cleared. This is very unpleasant work. But, says Stephanie, being an overachiever and wanting this job and wanting to do well, I throw myself into the work, helping the woman. When they finish, the woman is glaring at her with hatred in her eyes. Stephanie has no idea what's wrong, but she says, "Look, I can get this now." The woman doesn't speak. She goes to the next room and sits where she can watch Stephanie. And then Stephanie says, I'm looking around the room, and it's got a floor-to-ceiling Confederate flag hanging behind the man's bed. And the thing is that when you're depressed, she says, it takes a while for the gears to kick in. I'm taking in the furniture. I'm so Martha Stewart. I'm into decorating and everything. And I notice a little coat tree, and I notice that on the coat tree there's this beautiful robe. Kind of like a church robe, except it's white. And it has a round circle with a white cross on it and a hood. But I'm still not grasping what's happening because I am totally amazed by the buttonhole stitching around the eyes of the hood. The woman is still looking at me. And the way we deal with things socially in Indiana is that we try to normalize things. So that's what I did. I pick up a book that looks like a Bible. It's got gilt lettering on the outside, and I'm looking for something peaceful and happy to read, maybe the Psalms. And I come across this manifesto about the superiority of the white race and how we all need to annihilate everyone else. And I shut the book. And it finally hits me that I am in the home of a Ku Klux Klansman and I am a black woman. Just then, Stephanie's client's airway clogs, and she thinks, thank God I have something to do. And she's so glad he's unconscious because he hates her. And she thinks, you cannot think about this because you need a job and you are so depressed you can't do anything else. This is no time for a Rosa Parks moment. You have to go through with this. And she thinks, I am an overachiever. I can totally do this. I am not going to let racism stand in my way. I am going to get this done. I am going to do it well. I am going to get an A+. I am going to get a check, and I am going to get out of here. And that is exactly what she did. Every 15 minutes for 4 hours, she leapt into action, caring for this man who wanted her dead. And she came back the next day. The woman let her in without a word, but at least she didn't watch her. She went to watch TV. And the next day, the woman wasn't quite as unfriendly, and she went to lie down a little. Stephanie realized that the woman wasn't getting any rest until she arrived to take care of the man. And she felt sad that they had no one to help them. On the 4th day, at the end of her shift, Stephanie had to awaken the woman from a deep sleep. On the 5th day, it was over. The man had died. And the woman had left Stephanie a message. She wanted her to know that Stephanie had given him the best care he'd received, that when Stephanie was there was the only peace and rest she ever got. And she wanted to thank her, so she was leaving her a tip. Stephanie Somerville wasn't allowed to keep the tip, but she says she realized that she got something more valuable, and it was this. The knowledge that we had met, she and I, these two incredibly desperate people in a highly charged, highly provocative situation, it could have been a mess. But instead, we came together and our lives touched. And in that touching, we changed the trajectory of our lives just a little bit. I'd like to think I changed the way she thinks about people of color, that we aren't whatever it is that she's been taught. And for myself, I got a job that got me out of bed. I had left Indiana to change the world, and I'd had to come home. But I realized that even if I couldn't change the whole world, I could change a little piece of the world that I was in. And for now, that was enough. That was enough. Beloved spiritual companions, we can afford neither a steady diet of outrage nor of despair. This is our faith. Do not stand idly by. Do something. May we answer the call to our humanity, to feel for others, to proclaim the inherent worth and dignity of every being, and to act. May we be heretical. We may not change the whole world, but we can change a little piece of the world we are in. Let us keep this faith. Never give up. Let us engage wholeheartedly on the side of love. Amen.
Zoe Toby is a gospel folk rock artist living in Oakland, California, and Reverend Joe Lubkin's best friend. Blessed Unrest was the title of his debut album. Zoe has been described as a socially conscious rocker. Blessed Unrest has been called a soundtrack for social change. The words are printed in your order of service. Let's stand as we're willing and able and join in singing together, Blessed Unrest.
I didn't tell the choir I was going to do this, but I think let's actually do the first verse twice so you get a chance to hear it, because I'm not going to teach it to you. Join in right away if you want, but we'll loop back and sing the first verse one more time. Oh, I am waking up to find my world between the dying and being reborn. I see what is and I see what could be. Can't close my eyes again and go back to sleep. Oh, I am waking up. Oh, I am waking up to find my world between the dying and being reborn. I see what is and I see what could be. Can't close my eyes again and go back to sleep. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. How can I change our course? Just a lonely voice. Wish I could lose myself in all the noise. But if we all would rise, a generation proud, then with a mighty song, we could turn this world around. blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. I bring the power of a long unbroken line. So when our time is through, I want to know, did what we came to do for the future ones. So in our darkest days, may we all be strong and give our lives so life may go on. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. For the turning of the tide. For the turning of the tide. Amen.
And let's join hands for the benediction. These are words from the Harry Potter Alliance, activists for equality, human rights, and literacy. Here is how we move forward. Keep loving, keep fighting, celebrate story, laugh, dance, sing with your friends, with strangers, with every single person who keeps showing up when the world tells them not to. Resist hatred, resist cynicism. Know that none of this is foolish. Know that it is necessary. Give love and light to those around you and those around the world. Be excellent to each other. Be good. Always, 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 the weapon we have is love. Wands up. Keep the faith, beloveds, and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. Bless your hearts. Amen.
please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.